Are you there, Stephanie?
I am here.
Okay, great. All right, I'll get started right at 1:30.
Hey, Nick, maybe give everybody a couple minutes.
Okay, all right, we'll do. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm just going to give a couple more minutes for more attendees to join the workshop, and then we'll get started. Okay, I think we'll get started now. Good afternoon. My name is Nick Pierce. I'm a manager in the Permit Services Division of the San Joaquin Valley Air Pollution Control District. And today I'm going to provide an update on the district's best available retrofit control technology evaluation of the final 3 rules listed in our expedited BARCT schedule that we adopted back in December of 2018. But before we begin, I want to review some general information and instructions for the meeting. We ask that you please silence your communication devices, such as your cell phone or your desk phone. This will ensure that we are not receiving any feedback during the meeting. There will be opportunities for questions and comments after the presentation. For those participating via the Zoom video application, we ask that you please press the raise hand button so that you may be recognized to speak. For those of you that are participating via teleconference, please press *9 to raise your hand so that you may be recognized to speak. Staff will call the last 4 digits of your phone number when it is your turn to speak, and be sure to press *6 to mute or unmute yourself. So with that said, we will get started. So just to provide some background, the district has a long history of implementing strict emission control measures in our ongoing efforts to attain air quality standards. In fact, to date, the district has adopted and/or amended over 650 rules that directly control emissions from stationary sources and other sources of emissions. Nevertheless, ongoing analysis is required to determine whether these rules continue to meet ever more stringent federal and state requirements, including best available retrofit control technology requirements. So why is a best available retrofit control technology review required? Assembly Bill 617, commonly referred to as AB 617, is intended to reduce air pollution exposure in disadvantaged communities. As part of this requirement, several disadvantaged communities have been selected for emission monitoring, and community emission reduction plans have been developed to reduce the impact of air pollution within those communities. In order to ensure that pollution exposure is reduced in these communities, AB 617 has a requirement that districts in non-attainment areas develop a schedule to implement best available retrofit control technology for facilities that are subject to the state's greenhouse gas cap and trade program. As stated previously, the district has a long history of adopting rules to reduce emissions from facilities, and we periodically reevaluate these rules as a normal part of our planning efforts. Consequently, many of our rules already meet or exceed best available retrofit control technology requirements. However, as I said, due to ever more stringent air quality standards, ongoing analysis is necessary to ensure continued implementation of best available retrofit control technology, which is what we refer to as BARCT. So what is BARCT? BARCT is an air emission limit for existing sources, which represents the maximum degree of emission reduction achievable once you consider environmental, energy, and economic impacts. As part of our expedited BARCT schedule, we identified 16 rules that required further analysis to determine if they still met BARCT. We began evaluation of these rules in 2019, and we held workshops in 2020 and 2021 to provide updates on these analyses. These next 2 slides show the status of the 16 rules we identified for further review. This information is also available on the AB 617 section of our website, so I won't spend too much time on this list. Rather, this presentation will focus on the final 3 rules in the expedited BARCT review schedule, namely District Rule 4625, which applies to wastewater separators, District Rule 4621, which applies to gasoline transfer into stationary storage containers, delivery vessels, and bulk plants, and District Rule 4402, which applies to crude oil production sumps. These are the rules that we have evaluated since our last BARCT workshop in 2020. So as I said, we've completed our evaluation of these final 3 rules. I will go into more detail for each rule in the following slides, but this slide will basically provide a summary of our analysis for each of these rules. So in summary, we determined that Rule 4625 meets BARCT requirements. We determined that Rule 4621 is not subject to the expedited BARCT evaluation process, so we removed it from the schedule. And finally, we evaluated Rule 4402 and found that a rule development process is necessary in order to establish BARCT. So I'm going to talk now more specifically about the rules, starting with District Rule 4625, which limits VOC emissions from the separation of crude oil and water after custody transfer. And custody transfer is defined as the physical and contractual ownership change of produced fluids from an oil producer to another entity, such as a refinery. Pre-custody transfer wastewater separation is conducted in tanks that are subject to District Rule 4623, and the leak detection and repair requirements for post-custody transfer wastewater separators are addressed by Rule 4455. Both Rule 4623 and 442 and 4455 are currently undergoing rule development to satisfy BARCT. So as part of our analysis, we reviewed similar rules at other air districts, state and federal regulations, as well as district permit requirements to determine if Rule 4625 meets BARCT. Our analysis revealed that there are no federal, state, or other air district rules with more stringent VOC control requirements than District Rule 4625. Therefore, we concluded that Rule 4625 meets BARCT requirements. The next rule I'm going to talk about is District Rule 4621. This applies, it limits VOC emissions from the transfer of gasoline into stationary storage containers, delivery vessels, and bulk plants. We looked into this, in a more detailed fashion, and we found that there are in fact no permits at cap and trade facilities that are subject to District Rule 4621. Furthermore, gasoline storage containers are subject to District Rule 4623, and gasoline loading racks are subject to District Rule 4624. And as I indicated previously, both of these rules are currently undergoing a rule development process to satisfy BARCT. And that's ongoing right now as we speak. So consequently, because there are no permitted units at cap and trade facilities which are subject to Rule 4621, it was removed from the expedited BARCT schedule. The final rule we evaluated was District Rule 4402. And this rule limits VOC emissions from first, second, and third stage sumps, which historically were used to separate crude oil from water. The district does not have any permitted sumps at cap and trade oil producer facilities. All of these facilities do their oil and water separation in tanks, which are subject to District Rule 4623, which, as I stated previously, is undergoing a rule development process as we speak. However, some of these facilities operate ponds that store produced water, which is water that's left over after the oil has been separated from it. Rule 4402 provides an exemption for ponds that store produced water with a VOC content less than 35 milligrams per liter. All of the ponds operated by cap and trade facilities comply with this 35 milligram per liter requirement, so they are not subject to Rule 4402 requirements. As part of our BARCT analysis for this rule, we looked at similar rules at other air districts, such as South Coast Air Quality Management District, Ventura County Air Pollution Control District, and San Luis Obispo County Air Pollution Control District. Our analysis revealed that other air district rules have exemption levels for produced water ponds of 5 milligrams of VOC per liter, which is more stringent than Rule 4402. We thus determined that we need to begin a rulemaking process to evaluate opportunities to enhance the stringency of this rule and ensure the continued implementation of BARCT. Our plan is to begin this rulemaking process before year's end. So this slide here basically shows a general overview of our rulemaking process, which is a transparent and public process with multiple opportunities for public engagement and feedback through workshops and comment periods. As I mentioned, of the 3 rules I discussed above, one of the rules, Rule 4402, will undergo a rulemaking process to explore opportunities to enhance its stringency and ensure the continued implementation of BARCT requirements. So with that said, that concludes my presentations. If you have any questions or comments via Zoom, please raise your hand and we will take them in the order they are received. Alternately, you may submit questions or comments via email at the email address linked here, which is webcast@valleyair.org. With that said, I'd be happy to take any questions or comments you may have.
Our first comment is from John.
Hi, John. Go ahead.
Hey, John, are you there? Our next comment is from Russ.
Yes, can
Hi,
you hear
Russ,
me?
Go ahead. Yes.
Yeah, are any of these ponds located at any of your refineries or any other facility under SIC code 2911?
I don't have that information in front of me right now. Most of the ponds, and in fact, I think all the ponds are located in a very remote areas that are really not near any other type of civilization or anything like that. But we can definitely look into that and get back to you. If you would send your comment via email, then we can look into it and respond to you directly.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Russ.
I do not see any other public comment.
Okay, do we have any people that want to make a comment via telecast? I'm sorry, a teleconference?
No, we do not.
Let me check the webcast email. Don't see any emails and webcasts. So if there are no further questions or comments, we can conclude this meeting. Thanks everyone for participating. I appreciate that.